Drive to Survive Season 5 dropped on Netflix a few days ago, and I know what you're thinking, oh Kieran, we've already seen people reacting to this, creators giving their opinions. Well, I wanted to watch it along with you, the audience, because I guess you could call me a man of the people, and it's definitely not because we didn't get given the early access this time, definitely not. But anyway, here's our summary of Drive to Survive Season 5. Otmar. I truly didn't expect to come away from the series thinking only about Otmar Szafnauer, yet here we are. Of course we knew we'd be seeing the whole Oscar Piastri saga play out for the cameras, and that Otmar would be a key part of that, but I never knew how much I'd fall for the man as a result. His character is perhaps best summed up by his introduction to the series in episode 5, as he carefully irons his shirt and scolds himself for making a mistake, practicing his French by repeating the words "Je m'appelle Otmar", throwing Fernando Alonso the most awkward birthday celebration of all time, struggling to get into the paddock when scanning his pass, having his name chanted by a group of sponsors in one of the most painful minutes of television that I have ever seen. And then there's a small matter of losing Piastri to McLaren. And to top it all off, the reason Otmar gives for leaving Aston Martin? He wanted to be somewhere more fun. Connor, if you could just stick the definition of an energy vampire on the screen, it'd be much appreciated. He also uses the quote, "It ain't over till it's over," attributing it to the great Yogi Bear. After switching on subtitles and doing some Googling, I realised he was talking about a baseball player, Yogi Berra, but that's just not quite as funny. The team principles. Even the most devoted hater of DTS would have to admit that the footage of that team principal meeting where they're discussing the porpoising of the Mercedes is absolute gold. And you know when Christian Horner accuses somebody of playing up to the cameras and asking to turn them off, shit just got serious. We very rarely get to understand the pure character of the team bosses, but we got given so much. Toto getting progressively more camp as he gets angry. Andreas Seidel doing everything in his power not to laugh. Mike Crack. Sorry, it's just always going to be fun. Mike Crack, funny name, absorbed by his note-taking. And Gunter just having the best time. Maybe this is what Drive to Survive should be. Genuinely fascinating insight into parts of the sport that we've never had access to before. And just as a side note, F1, please bring back recorded driver briefings, please. The team principles were generally the highlights of this whole season, from Binotto and Steiner's wine tasting, during which I saw more personality from Mattia than I have in the last 4 years, to Fred Vasseur and Gunter's disruptive high school best friends relationship, to the playground gossip between all the other team bosses regarding Red Bull's budget cap breach. It really was excellent viewing. What made the edit? There were some fairly bizarre inclusions and exclusions in this series, as well as big storylines that ended up going nowhere. Firstly, and I'm still struggling to understand it as I say this, why the hell was Brazil not included? You've literally left out the race that finishes 2 main story arcs, with Kevin's pole and George's win. You can't continuously go on about the struggles of Mercedes and not include it. And no, I don't count the, oh by the way, George won in Brazil. No, that's not good enough. What were you thinking? My hands are getting very animated, I'm sorry. And we also have a whole episode on Mick Schumacher's future being in doubt, and only casually drop it into the closing sequence that he's gone? And why did we hardly talk about Seb retiring? And why did Daniel get a full montage? And where was Lance Stroll? Where was Lance Stroll? Oh, calm down. Honourable mentions. There were a lot of moments that did make me laugh during the series, some of which perhaps weren't intended to be as funny as they were. We have I really hope you can get footage of this, but I don't think you can. We have Kevin Magnussen's child being dropped into a river like an anchor was being thrown out. Lando referring to his girlfriend as baby, which honestly made my skin crawl a little bit. Toto's honest assessment of DTS not being a documentary. Checo's fat ass. Everybody at Haas talking about Mick's uncertain future in a way that sounded like he was going to be murdered. And of course, Fernando Alonso's admission that he is on the dark side. It's also worth mentioning George Russell, somebody I find to be an incredibly bizarre human being. From using the words groovy and wacky, unironically, to seemingly kick off a talking head segment by telling the crew, I have 4 single beds in my room. He reminds me of a Labrador, but a Labrador that studied classics at Oxford. And of course, it wouldn't be Drive to Survive without Will Buxton, who helpfully reminded us that qualifying is everything, because it determines your starting position on the grid on Sunday. You want to start from the front because it means you've got the other 19 drivers starting behind you. I'm sure they've used this exact soundbite before and are doing this just to be funny now. We'll finish this video off with some of Gunter Steiner's best quotes, as, let's face it, he's kind of the star of the show. Even if that star does sometimes seem like he's much happier to criticise his driver to everyone else, apart from the driver himself. Not good, Gunter, not good. No risk, no fun. I need to phone Gene now. Last year, for 2 points, I mean, I would have to the whole paddock. Turns out he did say hugged, but again, less funny. Need to phone Gene now. Hell. No more Russians. I'm done with Russians until I go from this planet. Let's go porpoising. Have you watched Drive to Survive Series 5, or will you be giving it a miss this year? Is it good for the sport? Let us know in the comments. And if you're new around here, please subscribe, because we really need the help right now. One day, well, people will start watching the videos again. It'll be really nice. It'll be really, and they'll be like, oh, actually, no, it's kind of similar to how it was before, just with different personalities. But, you know, maybe our personalities are just completely insufferable.